As a preliminary matter, this is Woody Knight, Chair of the Newbury Planning Board. Everyone can hear me, correct?
Yep,
Very good.
thanks, Woody.
Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Planning Board members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Peter Pecos,
Yes, sir.
Larry Murphy,
Here.
Scott Kinta,
Yes.
Steve Mangian,
Yes.
and I am here as well. Town Council, Attorney Jay Tollerman. Sure he'll be joining us shortly. Town staff, Kristen Grubbs.
Yes,
Applicants or representatives, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. 68 Green Street, Crane Properties, Mike Dos Santos.
Jeff Poirier here on behalf of Crane Properties.
Okay, yep, Jeff, very good. Thank you. Newbury Heights, Mark Bobrowski.
I'm not sure
Newbury
if
Heights.
Mark Bobrowski's on yet, Mr. Chairman, but Christian Smith of Beals Associates is here as well.
Okay, thank you, Christian. Gerald Welch and Mike Cavez. I see Mike scrambling towards the computer. Very good. And I see Jay, thank you. And Steve Sawyer, Millennium Engineering,
Yeah, here with Vincent Godin.
and Vince Godin. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Vince. Good evening. The June 18th, 2025 open meeting of the Newbury Planning Board is being conducted remotely consistent with Chapter 2 of the Act 2025, which extends the Governor's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL 30A 20, until June 30th, 2027. For this meeting, the Newbury Planning Board is convening by video conference via Zoom, as posted on the Planning Board's agenda, which can be found at the town's website. You may join us by going to http://zoom.us and entering meeting ID number 832-7141-3056, passcode 108790, or by calling in 1-929-205-6099 US and entering meeting ID number and passcode when prompted. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that attendees are participating by video and or telephone conference. The meeting is also being broadcast live through local access channel 9 and on Zoom and at https://newburytv.wixsite.com/TNCTV. And the recording will be available on the Newbury Access YouTube channel. Meeting business ground rules. Before we turn to the first item on the agenda, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business to ensure accurate meeting minutes. As chair, I'll introduce each speaker on the agenda. After speakers conclude their remarks, I'll go down the list of board members, inviting each by name to provide any comments, questions, or motions. For all attendees except board members and staff, please remember to mute your audio when you are not speaking. On Zoom, there's a mute button. And on the phone, use *6 to toggle mute and unmute. There will be an opportunity for public comment and questions during the two public hearings. After board members have spoken, I will afford the public an opportunity to comment and or ask questions. I will see questions and comments through the Zoom raise hand function. Video conference participants, to raise your hand, hover over the button. Hover over the bottom of the Zoom window below the photo gallery and click on the image of hand that appears. Please ensure your name is fully and correctly displayed on the participant list. Telephone participants, to raise your hand in a Zoom meeting, hit *9 on your telephone keypad. I will then allow questions and comments from members of the public who have raised their hands in the order in which they are listed, which is determined by the order in which people click on the raised hand function. Each participant will be called on to provide his or her name and address, and then may ask a question or make a comment. Please do your best to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Your hand will be lowered when you have been given the floor for your question. I will afford the applicant or his or her representative the opportunity to reply. I will then continue down the list of those in the raised hand column, and again, afford the applicant and or representative an opportunity to speak. Should there be a written submittal of questions or concerns, they will be noted for the record. The participant, applicant, representative will be afforded the opportunity to speak if the issues raised have not yet been addressed. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. All right, first item on the agenda, old business. 68 Green Street subdivision, Farmview Lane, Newbury, Mass. Request for release of performance bond. Owner Mike DeSantos, Crane Properties LLC. Applicant and representative, attorney Jeffrey Poirier. If you would, Jeff, can you hear me?
I can.
If you would you present your request, please?
I'm happy to. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Jeff Poirier. I'm an attorney here on behalf of Crane Properties LLC, who developed a 3-lot subdivision at 68 Green Street. The project was declared complete back at a meeting in November of 2024. And then subsequently, there has been one release for a partial release of performance bond. And presently, the board is holding $3,000. That was to ensure that the Concom orders of conditions were closed out, and specifically that remnants of an old farm road and some grass was able to pop and stabilize. That work has been complete. As of May 6, 2025, the orders of conditions have been closed out, and we're asking for a full release of the remaining $3,000 performance bond.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Planning board members, do you have any questions? Anyone have any questions on this matter? Okay. Hearing none, I don't have any questions myself. Kristen, do you have any updates, and can you confirm that this work's been completed? I know it was finalized with conservation.
Yep, it was, Woody. I've confirmed with the conservation agent that they're all set with the work that has been done.
Okay, great. So with that said, I would entertain a motion to release the final remaining $3,000 in the performance guarantee fund to the applicant, Crane Properties, and close the project.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Peter. Or in the other order, thank you, Peter. Thank you, Larry. Roll call vote, Peter Pecos,
Yes, sir.
Larry Murphy,
Yes.
Scott Kenter,
Yes.
Steve Mangian,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. Thank you, Jeff, and good luck to you guys.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Have a good night. I have 7:08, and we got 7 minutes before our first public hearing. So, you just bear with me for one moment. Why don't we jump ahead to liaison and meeting reports? If that's all right with everyone. First up is ZBA. Larry, do you have anything?
Yeah, just briefly, Woody. The ZBA met last week on the 12th. I had previously mentioned a petition to build some townhomes on the site of the Plum Island Grill property on the island. That was continued at the applicant's request. I understand that they may be moving to reduce the scope of the project. The board reviewed and approved decisions for 120 Northern Boulevard and 337th Street, special permits. And there was a brief discussion on the Pearson Drive 40B project. The master deed and declaration of trust documents are being reviewed by council. And That was it.
Yeah, thank you, Larry. Anyone have any questions? All right, otherwise we'll go on to conservation. They met last night. A few items on the agenda. 65 Hanover Street, there was a INRAD confirming some wetlands. Um, Plum Island Grill was on there, which was I think that's 2 Old Point. Excuse me if I'm wrong with the address, but that was continued. Sunset was on there, continued. And I think that was about it. So nothing else really pertaining to us, other than a conversation about Plum Island Bridge parking lot. They want to do some work to it. That was continued as well because they're not ready. They weren't ready for that either. In the green, they want to do some work at the green, but they have to do some more research and filing to be prepared for another conversation. So that was it with Concom. Kristen, would you like to do MVPC?
Sure. So the commissioners, MVPC commissioners met last week, and the MVPC planners group has its monthly meeting next week. The commissioners meeting, I zoomed in, which was unfortunate because they were having sort of a kickoff to summer, wear your party shirt, and a little bit of a fun meeting slash luncheon, partially to honor Gerard Whitten, who I think, as you all know, he's been executive director at MVPC in recent years, but the honoring was because he's actually been working there for 30 years. He was really the person who, took their GIS mapping program to new heights in his time as a, data and GIS manager. And then I would echo many of the comments made at the commissioners meeting, which is that he's really been doing a stellar job leading the commission, and they have an incredible staff and just provide such services. So anyway, that was kind of fun to honor Gerard for his 30 years and to know that he's a Newbury resident. So that was fun. The commission takes a summer break from meetings. So there was some end of fiscal year budgeting, reporting out of committees. What else? They've had a little bit of staff turnover. Hannah Mogensen, who you all may remember, helped spearhead project manager for the town's hazard mitigation planning update. She's been promoted to the environmental program manager, which is terrific. She's really awesome to work with. So that's exciting. And they're going to be hiring a new environmental planner as well. So those are the highlights. And thank you. The board has made the recommendation that I'll continue as MVPC commissioner, which I think is a really valuable way to stay in touch with all the work that MVPC is doing for the next fiscal year. That's about
All right.
it.
Okay, thank you, Kristen, and thank you for doing it. And I still have a minute here, so I'm gonna jump ahead again and go to wonderful meeting minutes. Has everyone on the board had a chance to review the June 4th, 2025 meeting minutes?
I have.
Seeing some nods, okay, thank you. So I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes, unless anyone's got any amendments. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes for June 4th, 2025.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Steve. Roll call vote, Peter Pecos,
Yes.
Larry Murphy,
Yes.
Scott Kinta,
Yes.
Steve Mangian,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. Well, no, I don't vote yes. I actually was not able to attend them. But they're approved anyway. Sorry about that. And now I have 7:15, so we'll move right on. move back in the agenda to, the first public hearing, continued public hearing for 34 Central Street, assessors map R19-0-19, level 2 site plan review for section 97-4G MBTA communities, multifamily overlay district, MCMOD. 44 unit multifamily application, owner, Melody and Robert Pritchard, applicant, Massachusetts Housing Opportunities Corporation, MHOC LLC. And I'd like to welcome Jay from Town Council here, Jay Tellerman. And we have Mike, and we have Gerald Welch and Mark Bobrowski.
Correct.
They're all here. Very good. And Christian Smith, the engineer. So if you would, please update us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mark Bobrowski for the applicant. My office is in Concord. Not going to take a lot of your time. I'll introduce Chris Smith. He'll give you an update, and then we'll get on to discussion of the stormwater component.
Very good.
Thank you, Mark. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Again, Christian Smith with Beals Associates representing the applicant on the project. And so a quick synopsis of where we've been or where we've come since the last meeting. We were able to attend a site walk with planning board members. And thanks to those of you that were able to get out and walk the site with us. I think that's always very helpful. We completed an additional round of deep holes and perk testing for the property. One pit that was associated with a stormwater pond, that was the one closest to Central Street, as well as I believe it was 6 additional pits that particular day that were specific to reserve areas and the actual septic area itself. We have provided a response to Joe Sirwatka's initial review comment memo and provided the board with the information that accompanied that, the revised plans, revised architectural plans, etc. We've reviewed and responded to some of his grading questions around the buildings, and that has all been synced up. And specific to the to the stormwater, I believe that we have covered and responded to. I don't believe there was any contention on our end of comments that were brought up in Joe's original letter. Of course, we'll wait to hear back on that. Certainly, the I did receive a memo from an abutter that was provided by Kristen just half an hour ago or so. That may not be an exact time, but in any event, I can go through some of those if the board feels it useful. Otherwise, we can address Mr. Sirwatka's any outstanding items that Mr. Sirwatka may have after he reviews or thoroughly reviews the resubmittal. And I believe that is largely what we've been able to accomplish since the last time we were here. And with that, I'll entertain questions that the board may have. Any follow-up? I would mention to I think it was Mr. Pecos that was looking at the some of the trees that had to be knocked down to get the excavator in to do the test pits in the septic reserve area, which you'll see out behind units or buildings 5 and 6. We did propose a fairly elaborate, or not elaborate, but a dense planting in that location down at the lower end, pretty much within the 10-foot buffer of the parent parcel. We've got 6 to 8 foot spruce trees that are planted essentially 20 feet on center, and those would be staggered such that the second row of trees, in other words, the trees that would be upslope slightly, would infill the gaps between the trees on the lower level. So we think that's going to provide a not only effective, screening and replacement of what had to be done to get the excavator out to do the requisite soils testing. But I think that, obviously as time passes, that will additionally provide a great deal of permanent year-round screening to the abutter that was nearest to that area where we had to get the vehicle in. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll take and address any questions that the board may have.
All right, thank you. Before I ask the questions or comments from the board, Kristen, would you like to give us an update on regarding peer review?
Sure. Yeah, just to sort of repeat what Christian was saying, which is we did receive these revised plans and a narrative letter in response to the first letter from Joe Serwaka, who's the town's engineer. So Joe does have the revised materials and is reviewing them. In addition, I do think the planning board site visit was informative for the process. We also, since the last meeting, requested and received some comments from Martha Taylor, who continues to serve in a part-time capacity, former planning director for the town, and is now helping support my role and also special projects when the planning board is in need of additional counsel. So she is a registered architect by background and profession prior to being a planner. So she submitted what I find to be a very informative review letter, which is also posted on the town website now, regarding the design elements of the project in particular. So that's available for everyone's review. Let's see. In addition, we've had the fiscal impact report be read and reviewed by the town's chief principal assessor on staff. And he submitted a short letter in response to that. And I am not sure, but I believe that the Board of Assessors is also going to take a look at that fiscal report and provide any comments to the planning board. And then our traffic peer review is also underway, as has been mentioned. We're anticipating the first comment letter for that review sometime within the next week, and have invited Bob Michaud, who is the peer review traffic reviewer, to a future planning board meeting to not just present a written comment letter, but also engage in answering any questions that the board or other members have. So I think that's a summary of where we are. There are a lot of reviews and conversations going. And my final comment is I was thinking, when it's appropriate, Woody, it could be helpful to all of this process to invite town council to just spend a few minutes reviewing for us the site plan review bylaw and the MICMOD bylaw and the parameters around which the board members can condition this project review. I just thought that might be helpful for everyone's sake to review a little bit. So I've invited him to do that.
Very good. Yes, and that would be very helpful, just to refresh everyone's mind, and with this being our first one. So thank you. Thank you, Chris. All right, I'll start with planning board members. Comments or questions? Peter?
Yeah, if it's okay, Woody, I'd like to follow Kristen's lead and ask town council just to set our parameters and guidelines before we start our questions and comments.
Yes, definitely. If Jay's ready, we can do that now. Thank you, Jay.
Sure. And I don't know what you've gone over or what your experiences are before, but I'll go through briefly kind of the oddity that is site plan review and some additional considerations in and around site plan review as it applies to 3A zoning. So site plan review, as I think we know, you can't find it in the zoning act. It doesn't exist under Chapter 40A as a prescribed permitting process, but it's been adopted by a majority of towns now in some way, shape, or form, either kind of lengthy site plan review or somewhat shorter and more perfunctory. You have a fairly robust, well-developed site plan review bylaw and set of regulations in the town of Newbury, and they govern all kinds of projects. I think the key to think about with site plan review is it resides somewhere between by right and special permit. And it is intended as a means, what I like to say when I'm talking to boards is, it's intended as a means to shape a project, but not deny a project. So you don't really deny projects under site plan review unless they fail to supply the information required under your regulations, or if it's otherwise an extreme example. But what you do have is some of the ability, as you have under special permit, to critically review with peer review, take your time and impose conditions within the parameters of your site plan review bylaw. So kind of flash forward to the 3A zoning world where they said, hey, we're going to create by right zoning. Meaning you can't really say no to by right zoning such as multifamily zoning in this instance. But what you can do, the give back a little bit to communities to allow them to shape projects to fit their concerns or to address their concerns, is to allow site plan review, provided it's objective criteria and easily navigated, but also in accordance with clear guidelines. And under your bylaw, it refers to the criteria within the 3A bylaw, but also to the criteria within 97.9, your generic site plan review bylaw. And there's a lot of criteria there that apply to every single conceivable element of a project as it applies to public health, safety, and welfare. So this is a project that you have before you. There's some things that are pretty straightforward, but there's things that are challenging too. There's a lot of topography and some other things there. And I think the board should approach the site plan review process with an eye towards not finding a way to be a block to anything the applicant is trying to do, but to make this project better. And you have a really good opportunity, and boards sometimes don't take advantage of the opportunity under site plan review to make a project better. In a situation such as this, and with someone as experienced as Mark Bobrowski, we hope that happens by discussion amongst the engineers and the peer reviewers and council and applicants, and everyone reaches consensus of what a project like this should be. At the end of the day, if there's differences of opinion on that, but you feel that there's something important that you need to change about the proposal as it stands before you, you do have significant authority to impose conditions. Those conditions can't operate to block or unduly frustrate a project, but you do have the authority to impose conditions within the framework on the impacts to the neighborhood and the town that any project may present to you. So I don't know if that is more or less what Kristen and Peter had in mind, but that's kind of my short summary of what the way I would approach site plan in a project like this.
Okay, thank you so much, Jay. Does anyone have any questions for Jay from the planning board? Hearing none.
I think that was, yeah, just thank you, town council. I think that was helpful for all of us to review and hear together.
No, I just want to make sure everyone understood what he said. All right, we'll go on to questions and comments from the board. Peter?
Thanks, Woody. And Jay, thanks. I do love the the concept of helping to shape a project. And I think that is beautiful to help make this work in a manner that fits the community. Having the ability to do a site walk is so imperative, because when we look at plans are on paper and they're two-dimensional, they're not three-dimensional. So being able to get onto a site and walk a site and see a site and get an appreciation of how that site might impact and affect other individuals is very important. So I come at this from two perspectives. One is safety and one is impact to surrounding community. And I think the safety issues we can talk about down the road after we hear from our traffic consultant. But Christian, you started the conversation with talking about what was done to the site. And unfortunately, you don't want things to be done to a site before the site walk or site visitation takes place. But what that did was that allowed me an opportunity to visualize what could potentially be taking place in the future. When we worked this MBTA community bylaw, we were really, really diligent about trying to be as thoughtful to our community as possible. And so the concept that we really were very robust about was the concept of a buffer. And the concept of a buffer might be different in other aspects of how it's utilized in the town, but I think the intent of the planning board when we created the concept of a buffer was there for it to be a buffer, a physical buffer, so that what was there exists without being interfered to what's going on. And what I saw on our sidewalk was I saw a significant disturbance of the existing buffer, the physical buffer that's in place. And I'll just tell you from the start, I have a strong concern with that, because your project, which is a robust project, and I think a very noteworthy project, there's significant topographical elevation changes, which was touched on by Jay. And as a result, we're going to be creating an environment where we're going to have something very high and something that is existing that is low. And since the buffer has started to be altered, I have concerns with that. So I'm going to articulate those now, because I have strong concerns for the folks that are on Parker, the 3 or 4 houses that are on the, let's see, I'm looking at the plan, so the southwest aspect of this project. And I articulated that to the team that was out there in the field, Christian. So I'm going to articulate it now in our public hearing setting. So that's going to be a strong concern that I'm going to be looking for great guidance from you guys to see how we can be thoughtful to preserve that. So that's all that I'm going to say for now, Woody. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Peter. Larry?
Yeah, thanks, Woody. The site walk was very, very helpful. Thank you. And it's hard to know really where to start. I mean, there are a number of items that were raised through our peer review process from Joe Sawatka and Martha Taylor. Some of them, there's a whole laundry list of things that I guess I would best describe as being under discussion at this point. So I'm not going to bother to try to list them all. It sounds to me, Kristen, like basically we're waiting to get more information from Joe. I hope the applicant might respond to Martha Taylor's comments. Both of them seem to have issues with the grading and the elevation changes, the reduction in elevation. At least Martha does anyway. And we're waiting for the traffic peer review. So, we have to, these are all very technical items, and well, at least most of them. And I think we have to, we'll be interested in hearing what our peer reviewers have to say. So I think there's more to come. I think that's all I have to say right now.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Scott?
I have nothing to add right now. I wasn't on the sidewalk, trying to get that scheduled sometime soon. So I'll reserve any comments really that I may have until after I walk the site.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Steve?
Yeah, I share some of the concerns about grading and elevation changes. I'm going to be very interested in seeing how Joe Swartka and deals with runoff and the functioning of the septic systems. It seems to me that if you regrade a good part of the site, some implications for, how well the retention basins, how well the leach fields will in fact operate under the new site conditions will be important, and a contingency might be in order, but I'll be waiting to hear from the experts that'll be weighing in on us. So with that, that's my concern.
Thank you, Steve. And I appreciated the site walk as well. It was very informative. Feet on the ground was a great way to see the site and then the topography and where screening was needed. And I agree with what everyone else said, that as peer review comes in, there'll be more questions and comments too. So with that said, before we go to any public comment, do we have any written public comments at this time, Kristen?
We just received a letter this afternoon, which Christian mentioned, from Jake Murray. I have not posted it on the website yet. I'm just looking for his address so I state it accurately. Jacob Murray, 15 Parker River Drive. So I will share and post those comments with everyone.
Okay, thank you. And now we'll go to raised hands. Are there any raised hands at the time? Does anyone see any?
Yes. So it looks like Christian is looking for an opportunity probably to respond to some of this, and then there's a couple public raised hands.
Okay, go ahead, Christian.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was one item that we did go through since the last hearing, which I failed to mention, and that was we did have our meeting with the Byfield Water District, which we felt went very well. We are in the process now of coordinating a flow test. Fortunately, just down Central Street in the direction of the highway from the Locust parcel, there is a hydrant that can be utilized for that. And then we'll need to figure out that there was concern they're not confident of the existing main material in front of the property. Initially, they thought it was either ductile iron or a concrete line ductile iron. Now they feel that it could be an older section of transite, which, as most of you probably know, is the asbestos concrete, and they are going to be working to hopefully do some sort of negotiation with regard to a collaborative replacement of a section of that. But we need to know, number one, is it indeed transite? What is the actual length of the pipe that they would want to be replaced? And then how does that all work with regard to cost sharing? Because obviously that's not an insignificant nor inexpensive question. Everything went very well there. And the final piece on that, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, is simply that still trying to work through with the fire department. And I just don't think I've been able to get through to the correct agent over there to discuss what they want for spacing for internal fire hydrants. But I just wanted to add that because I failed to mention that in my first go round. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. Okay, we'll go on to the first raised hand. Peter or Kristen? I can't see him.
Yep, Kathleen Sperling has her hand raised.
Okay, Kathleen, please give us your name and address.
Sure. Kathleen Sperling, 10 Parker River Drive, Byfield, Mass. I just really have one question, Woody, that I still have not received an answer to, and I'm not sure, but town council's on the call, so maybe he can help. Does the developer have to have liability insurance for any damage to the abutting property owners during the construction of this project? And how much would that liability insurance be? And how would an abutter be able to get in contact with this person? I'm particularly concerned because there is a built-in pool and some leaching fields in the area. So that's my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. Do we want to have a response to that? Is there a response to
Sure.
that? Chris?
I was waiting for you, Woody.
Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
So, that's not something we regulate under zoning. It does, the question comes up from time to time, certainly. I think any developer that is developing a project is going to carry some kind of insurance policy. I think that's just smart. Mark can answer if he wants, but that's not something that's within the four corners of your authority under the Zoning Act or your zoning bylaws to regulate. We can regulate things that might mitigate concerns that could result in damage to property, but imposing requirements for certain coverage limits is not within your job here.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Next person with the raised hand.
No other raised hands yet, but
Okay,
now's your chance, people.
Yep.
Don't
Seeing
see
none?
anybody.
Okay, great. Well, then we'll move on.
Oh,
May I
Roger,
just address a couple of things that came up, Mr. Chairman? Very
yes,
briefly.
go right ahead. Go
It's
right
Mark
ahead, Mark.
Bobrowski. Number one, I agree with town council's description of site plan review in the process. It's remains a mystery after 60 years why we haven't put this in the statute yet, but I think he captured the spirit of site plan review quite accurately. And number two, this is not a situation like a blasting situation in which we're going to have to follow the Code of Massachusetts regulations with regard to blasting prep, insurance, things of that. If it comes to that, then obviously we will carry the insurance required by state regulation.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Still no raised hands, Kristen?
I don't see any. I just have one comment as well while we're on this project. Just maybe this is in the category of down the road and not necessarily any near-term request for the applicant, since we are still waiting on, the traffic review in particular and other engineering review. But I did personally find it slightly challenging to get a handle on the landscape planning as a whole on the set of plans that have been submitted. And I wonder if that's something we could talk a little about in the future, Christian and Mike and Jerry. If there's, do you have a landscape architect consultant doing that work? And is there a way to get all of that on one landscape plan together in terms of tree planting and types of trees and the buffers around some of the infrastructure, just as a whole? That might be helpful from a certified landscape architect or something.
Yeah, we do have a landscape architect who we're working with. And obviously her initial focus was simply the plantings, street trees, that type of thing. Because with these, there will be some planting scheme in and around the buildings, which I think she has gone through to some level. But I think that the developers, and certainly Jerry or Mike can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I think they want some kind of creative liberty during construction once these individual sites with the buildings on them are in place to be able to do landscaping and planting that would be appropriate for how each individual unit lays out. In other words, some are walkout basements, others are slab on grade, etc. And that's just the type of housing that this particular property, and I think a number of folks have referenced it already. Just with the existing topography on the property and what is proposed, for finished grading and that type of thing. But absolutely, in direct answer to your question, Kristen, we can certainly get all of that. She does have a landscape, I think it's just a 2-sheet set of landscape plans within the actual plan set. And we can elaborate on that and, work with staff, board members, if they would like, to look at specific areas that they feel external screening is important. And I guess I'll just close with, mentioning that I completely understand where Member Pecos is coming from. The unfortunate reality is to get an excavator big enough to move some of the boulders on this property to create deep holes that we can actually, get into, log the soils, do the perk testing. Unfortunately, they're going to have to take down some trees just due to the size of the equipment. And I quite frankly, I think that the operator, and if you had seen him in action, he did the very best that he could at minimizing, existing tree damage. But, there is, without question, that we obviously all saw that walked the site together, some collateral damage to that end that does take place.
Woody, if I could.
Okay, yes, you can, Peter. was
So
just gonna
Christian, something just popped in my head. Sometimes we'll get these cross sections topographical presentations where we'll see the topography of the plan with where a building will be in an existing site, existing components on the site. I think this would be helpful, especially when we're talking about these areas, so that whether you decide to put a 1-story building on these high peaks that are going to be very, very visual versus a 2-story, just so that the board and the community can get an appreciation from a topographical kind of cross section to sink their teeth into it. So if you could try to maybe work on that for our next meeting, that would be really helpful, just so my concerns can be expressed and everybody can understand what we're going to be looking at going forward.
Yeah, absolutely, Peter. I think that's probably a fantastic idea. And I know that our architects are more than capable of doing those types of graphics. And I guess we would just want to be pretty specific about exactly where. I mean, obviously the Parker River Drive abutters that you had referenced earlier, that's going to be one location that you would like to see that. If there are any other, specific areas that you would like to see those cuts, perhaps you could get that information to Kristen ahead of us kind of nailing down, the landscape feature she was talking about as well.
I think that's real easy. And, as we're going forward, when you start to let the board know where you're thinking of putting the different buildings as you move these components around, that'll also be helpful too.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Thank you, Christian. If any planning board members, town council, or staff have any additional questions, please speak up now.
Yeah, actually, Woody, I do. Christian, you mentioned the reaching out to the fire department. I assume you'll be talking about things like turning radius and maximum slopes.
Oh, yeah, without question.
What would you anticipate the maximum slopes would be?
Let me just take a quick peek here because I believe we have that. It is not as severe as you might think, specific to the road slope. So coming in off Central Street, we have to carry the -1%, which makes a vertical curve angle point at station 100, so 100 feet into the property. Then we come up with a vertical curve transitioning into a 2.5% slope then a crest vertical curve, transitioning into a 1.2% slope, which as you then come around the circle, which would be to the north side of the proposed project, another rather long vertical curve that is a crest curve going from a 1.2% slope to a negative 2.4. And those are the maximum slopes that we're proposing in there at this point, Member Murphy.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Thank you, Christian. Anyone else?
Yeah, Woody, I have one quick question on the.
Yep, go ahead,
Can you hear me
Scott.
okay?
Yep.
On the, just at the buffer to the neighbor, what were you proposing, Christian? Some type of evergreen at 20 foot on center, and would that be like staggered?
Yeah, that's correct. They're basically as it sits right now, Member Kinter, it is just 11 6 to 8 foot tall at the time of planting spruce trees. And you're absolutely correct. 20 feet on center, so there will be a row of 6 at the lower side, 20 feet on center, and then kind of centered upslope from those in the gaps between those trunks, 5 additional trees of the same planting height,
Okay.
or same height at the time of planting.
So 2 rows, 6, and then 5, filling the gaps at 20 feet on center, just.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's really, that spacing is just to allow, for the growth, not to strangle each other out as they mature.
Excellent, thank you. And was it your landscape architect who, was it their plan, their idea, their spec, or was it you guys?
Sorry, I was muted. It was our discussion with her. And we will obviously, as Kristen had asked, we will get together with her and make sure that all of that ends up on a single plan. But she's had no issue with the spruce plantings and felt that spacing was reasonable, both for infill screening at that height, and then to allow for future growth of the trees, so that they don't, they're not destined to kill one another from overgrowth.
Okay, and just I know you focused on that, and there's probably going to be other people that are focused on that, buffers or and neighbors, or it's difficult. So it'd be great to ultimately see, at least the buffer area and those planters or plantings, at a 20 scale, with lots of detail as to what those calibers are, the size, if they're 6 to 8, maybe 8 to 10, or even 12. Just a suggestion. I'm not telling you how to do it or what to do, but it will be a focus.
Yep, understood. And I think in responding to Joe Sirwatka's initial memo, we did create the site plans at 1 inch equals 30 scale, which I think makes them much more readable. And I believe that is the same scale that the landscape architect had used.
Okay.
So we'll definitely get that coordinated, and when everything is finalized, specific to when we work through the issue with Kristen and staff, if we need additional rows, or it is suggested that additional rows would be beneficial, we will go through all of that, and it will be very clear what the proposal is, as well as the I know that she does have planting tables and planting details on her landscape sheets, which are in the plan set, and we will certainly elaborate on those, as I say, as we move forward, and address concerns of the board, and any potential that come from reviewers as well, obviously.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Christian. Anything else from anyone? All right, hearing nothing. We have some peer reviews coming in, Joe, traffic, and et cetera. So, if no one has anything further, I'd entertain a motion to continue this public hearing to discuss these specific items at our next meeting not our next meeting, but on July 16th, 2025.
So
You have a
moved.
motion. There you go, Scott.
I got it. Scott has a motion and Peter has a second. Roll call vote. Peter,
Sure thing.
Larry,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes, sir.
and Steve.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well, and I'd like to thank you all for your attendance tonight. We'll see you on the 16th.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Jim.
Chairman. And just a quick point, I will be out of the state the week of the 16th, but my engineer, John Lorden, can certainly stand in for me at the next hearing. If we need civil input, or I wasn't certain if that meeting was going to be dedicated to primarily traffic, but I can certainly coordinate with him. He has been as involved in this project as I have, and is more than capable of handling that hearing.
Okay,
Just FYI, just to let you guys know.
yeah, we anticipate having the traffic in next week, so we were gonna focus on traffic. But yes, thank you, Christian. And thank you, Jay, for being here tonight.
Very good. Thank you all. Nice to see you.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Moving on. We have the Cottages Commercial LLC, Vincent Godin, manager, applicant representative, Stephen Sawyer, Millennium Engineering.
Good evening, Steve Sawyer from Millennium here with Vincent Godin with Cottages Commercial. We're here for a site plan review application.
Hold on one sec, please,
Yep.
Stephen.
Yep.
Sorry. This is a submission of a level 2 site plan review application. 2 and 8 Old Point Road, assessors map UO2-0-153A. For an as-built constructed changes to approved site plan of record in a proposed new 40 by 40 pavilion structure. Larry, do you have the legal notice? Would you please read the legal notice
I do have it, Woody.
opening the public hearing?
Sure. The following notice was published in the Newburyport Daily News on June 4th and June 11th, 2025. Town of Newbury Planning Board Public Hearing Notice. Residents of the town of Newbury and other interested persons, please note that on Wednesday, June 18th, 2025 at 7:15 p.m., the Newbury Planning Board will hold an online virtual public hearing via Zoom to consider a level 2 site plan review application submitted by the Cottages Commercial LLC for a new 40-foot by 40-foot pavilion and changes to the original site plan review for the restaurant with movable kitchen and outdoor seating on property located at 8R Old Point Road, formerly 2-8 Old Point Road, map UO8, lot 153A, in the Plum Island Overlay District within the Residential Agricultural District. The proposed development is shown on drawings entitled Site Plan Update, Proposed Site Improvements 2-8 Old Point Road, dated May 14th, 2025, and described in supporting materials, all as prepared by Millennium Engineering, Inc. The application is on file with the town clerk and in the planning office, 12 Kent Way, Byfield, Mass, and may be viewed on the town's website at https://www.townofnewbury.org/planning-board/current-project-applications-and-plans. For more information or to obtain a copy of the application, contact the planning office at 978-465-0862 extension 336. All persons interested or wishing to be heard relative to the proposed development are invited to participate in the meeting remotely with their computer, tablet, or smartphone at https://us02web.zoom.us/j/832714133056 or by telephone by calling 1-929-205-6099 US and using meeting ID 832-714-133056, or may watch the meeting live on local access cable channel 9 or at https://newberrytv.wixsite.com/TNCTV by Woody Knight, Chair, Newbury Planning Board.
Okay, thank you so much, Larry. Now, Steve and Vincent, if you'd like to present the project, please.
Okay, Steve Sawyer, Millennium Engineering, here with Vincent Godin, Cottage Commercial. So there's been some changes made to the site over the last 4 years, or it's approaching 4 years of operation. I don't know, how would some of the members here, I guess, haven't seen the original plan. Should I share that first, or sort of revisit that original plan, or or should I just jump right to our current plan? What's the board's pleasure?
We could take a look at the original plan if you wish. That would probably be helpful, and then jump to
Okay,
the new proposal.
okay,
That'd be helpful for the board, I think.
all right.
We can kind of run through the old plan and then run through the new. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, so as you can everyone see the plan here?
Yes. I
Okay,
can.
great. All right, so the original site plan review application, we removed the gas station, we removed the supporting, I believe that was a residence behind the gas station. There was a garage in the rear that was retrofitted into the interior section of the garage. There was a movable mobile kitchen proposed at this portion of the site. The circulation of the site, we had a paved apron. We circulated through the site in this manner out to Plum Island Boulevard. This was an existing paved area to remain. The proposed handicap parking was originally proposed to be bituminous along with the apron, but as part of the review process with conservation, the DEP, there was no new paved surfaces allowed on the barrier beach. So they were converted to compacted gravel. Actually, the ADA was compacted stone dust for ADA compliance, and the entry was just compacted gravel surface. One item was originally we had the original application had circulation from Plum Island Boulevard through and then exiting on Old Point Road. But it's part of the site plan review process, and shaping the processes are determined to be more beneficial for the cars to enter off of Old Point and circulate through and exit onto Plum Island Boulevard with the final configuration here. We provided, I believe it was 54 spaces throughout the project in a required amount of it was 49 plus 5 spaces, 5 for employees. All the employees at the site, they park off-site. They park down at the cottage in the rear of the cottage and walk up during their shifts. So there's no employee parking on this property. And another note, the original thought for bituminous at the Old Point side was if the traffic was exiting that way, you'd get some tracking of gravel at the apron before proceeding out to Old Point. but with the reverse direction, we actually didn't, there was no need for any bituminous to try and pick up any tracking on that. So that's the overall configuration of the site as it was reviewed and approved back in May, I believe it was May of 2021. And the site's been in operation for it's approaching 4 years at this time.
Okay, thank you for
Yeah.
that, Steve, and move on to the new one. That was
Yeah.
very helpful.
Okay.
Refresh the board.
Yeah. So there's no change in the circulation of the site. Couple items that have changed. I'll work through the site with the changes. Originally, there was a rain garden at this location, and the main purpose of that rain garden was if there was paved area that collected sediment as the cars left, it would pick up any of the sediment. Now with the reverse circulation and gravel area, that was no longer needed. Also, the cities, as we got into the design of the sewer connection, there's a vacuum. I believe it's the vacuum manhole, connection manhole was located at this location. It was required to be at that location, so there was no room for that rain garden at that location. But environmentally, really with the gravel surface, with no impermeable surface here, it was no longer required. As far as the removal of that rain garden, that was actually the modification to that was reviewed and approved by the Conservation Commission, I believe, last fall. As we work into the site, we had the location of the 2 dumpsters at this location. Unfortunately, it wasn't picked up during design. For the truck to pick it up, this was an awkward location. They need to pull in forward. So it makes better sense for those to be located at this location, which typically it was a winter operation. I think at this time we're going to be asking to relocate those down at this area. And then eventually what we do, it eats up one spot. We have room to relocate that spot at this location. So with a plan update, I'll update that. So there was the moving of the dumpsters to that location. There's a solid fence at that location, screening it from the abutting property. The propane tank here was originally located at the edge of the building due to the vacuum manhole, and also I think at the direction of I think Vince can confirm this, at the direction of the building inspector, it was asked to be moved away from the building. So that was located out into, that was originally going to be a landscaped island. There's a concrete protection barrier around it. And then there'll be additional planting as approved by the planning board, as approved by the Conservation Commission to screen that a little better and get some additional planting at that location. As we work through, probably the largest change was the addition of the merch shack. There's a merchandise shack here. It's a container on site that was added in support of the business. It's very difficult running a business to try and increase revenue. As part of that, the restaurants, it's very typical for them to sell merchandise with their, promoting their restaurant. It's fairly popular. So they created this, they added this merchandise shack. That actually is part of, it is basically on the fence line here, interior to the site. And there is entry from the parking lot into that merch shack. As we're working down, another item is part of the operation. It's interior to the fence. The fence screen from the fence would be an additional storage trailer here. And the need for that is a lot of support, umbrellas and such that support the use of the structure. What's happened here over the years of the restaurant in operation, there's certain things that it's become evident that is needed to support the use and such. And one of that is some on-site storage. And so that is a proposed change. There is, I think, 2 small trailers. They're currently inside. They're both movable inside of the fence line. And then the proposed change, this is not currently constructed, would be a 40 by 40 open pavilion to provide shelter for restaurant users, for the users here. The challenge with an outdoor restaurant, as everyone knows, is the weather. Sometimes it's the baking heat would preclude people from going, which this would provide shade, and then also rain would provide cover. So this is an important ask for a change. One item is this has been approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals. That changes the merch shack and the pavilion have been approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals as part of their modification to their permit. The merch shack and all other changes were approved by the Conservation Commission. Currently, we're back before the Conservation to add the pavilion. That is in process and it will be running concurrently. We're running it concurrently with the planning board process at this time. One addition, as part of the stormwater review, ongoing stormwater review, one thing Joe Swarka's observation had noticed was that this area here, the existing paving, had an overlay. What happened was when they were during the removal of the gas station and the heavy construction, the pavement at this area became cracked, and as part of the construction, there was an overlay on this portion. And unfortunately, what happened with the overlay was it warped the pavement and directed the stormwater away from the original intent of the water running to this corner and into the rain garden. With that observation from Joe, one item that we could do to remedy that is provide a stone, cut the pavement away here at the throat, at the exit throat, and provide a stone infiltration trench to intercept the water and direct it to the rain garden. Another note that another item Joe noted was the rain garden was not constructed to the original size. Originally, there was a lot more pavement directed to that location, whereas now it's just this triangular portion here of the existing pavement that is captured in that rain garden. One item that is a little different now versus the original was with the new pavement, the new paved areas had to fully comply with the DEP stormwater regulations, whereas now the edge of the only pavement on site existed prior to the start of this construction. So it fully meets the redevelopment criteria with the DEP, which is the greatest extent practical. But as I said, we're currently running through, I think we submitted calculations documenting compliance of the new roof area, and also submitted Joe followed up with some questions regarding this location. We followed up with some additional calculations and along with design sizing the rain garden. So we expanded that slightly to meet those regulations. So that those are the major changes. I believe there might be some other minor changes. I'm sorry. We added a covered entry here between, originally there was the mobile container in the building. There's a small covered entry. This is to provide during inclement weather, the service window of the mobile container or the mobile kitchen is right here. And this is to provide a passageway for the servers to convey the food to the interior restaurant during inclement weather and in the wintertime. They are open, not full time. There is some winter operation. I believe they shut down for a little bit this winter just due to the seasonal demand. To covered entry, location dumpsters. Yep.
Sorry, I got dropped off for a sec. I didn't know you mentioned the concrete pad that we removed, as well as the wall that was originally approved over where the sheds are, that we did not build that retaining wall. About 100 feet of.
Yeah, so that would have been, in this area, I believe it's where no, it's in this area here. There was originally going to be a wall that you're talking about. Eventually, there's going to be a raised dining area in this corner.
Yep.
Yeah, so originally it was approved, I think it was an alternate or as part of the site plan was, there was gonna be a small wall with this area, this corner raised. That was never done. There is seating in this area, but as far as that wall was removed from the plan, was removed from the original plan. And I think,
Yeah, and then there was a large section of concrete right at the entrance to the main structure that was
Oh, that
originally
was-
approved to,
yeah.
that we
con-
decided to
Yeah.
remove as well to reduce the amount of impervious.
Okay, so that was up
That-
here at
that was
the, yeah,
on
the
site.
concrete, the concrete apron to the, it was the concrete apron to the original garage that was removed and replaced with the
Correct.
deck. Yeah, okay. All right. So, as far as on this plan, so the existing merch shack in place, it's just a metal container, it's painted, decorative painting, on the container itself. And this is just a photographic rendering of the proposed pavilion. One note on the pavilion, the gable end is this way. So as you drive in, you wouldn't be looking at the roof, you'd be kind of looking through the opening of that. And one item of note is before COVID, the original plan was at this location, was approved at the zoning board of appeals, was a large 2.5-story restaurant with a roof deck, very large structure here that was originally approved for the site. But as COVID set in, the financial viability of constructing a large restaurant like that was a high risk. And that's back in 2020, the end of 20, that's when Vincent changed course and went back to the zoning board of appeals to modify the plan to be probably it's year round, but heavily used in the summer season. I think more in keeping with the beach atmosphere down there. I don't think, Vincent, you have anything to add?
No, I mean, I guess there was a structure that was originally planned to remain there that unfortunately, when we went in for our original approvals for this current plan, during our ZBA process, had a fire and had to get torn down, and we kind of had left it at the time that we would come back later for replacement of some sort at that corner.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, I think, yep.
Go
Thank
ahead,
you.
Steve. You're good, Steve?
I'm
Thank
all
you,
set.
Steve.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Thank you, Vince. Okay. We'll start with planning board members. Do you have any questions or comments? Start with Peter.
Sure. Thanks, Woody. And Steve, thanks for going through the historical and the proposed. Hey, I'm looking at your diagrammatic here, and we have a nice image of the container. Is it possible to, with the technology that's out there, with creating what this would look like on site right now, rather than looking at what it looks like on a field with trees behind it, so we can get a feel for what it would look like from Plum Island Boulevard, from the Turnpike, and from Old Point Road? Is it possible to do that sort of rendering with all the computer technology sort of stuff? Drop it right on the image feed?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, Vincent and I were talking about that earlier today. He's actually working with the supplier to see what we can do. And then the other option is there is architects out there who can do a very accurate rendering. We take a picture of the site and they can do a very accurate rendering of that building, and we provide a section of the building and they can superimpose it in. So we have two options to provide a accurate depiction of what it would look like driving down Plum Island Boulevard.
That would be super helpful. And the second, are we planning on having this enclosed at any time? Are we going to be having sides that roll down on this? Because I know that was talked about, and I talked about in and out, because this has had so many different conversations.
It was approved by the ZBA as not having any enclosures on any sides.
Cool. All right.
So that is the end.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, that's what's anticipated. Peter, I just wanted to, I had dealt with the supplier who had told me he could get something 3D on there, and it turns out what came back was rather disappointing. But he did mention that they literally just put up a 40 by 80. And actually, if you wanted to share, if I could actually share, I could show you guys some pictures over at the Topsfield Fair grounds right on Route 1. They just put up a 40 by 80, same exact concept. Obviously, you would have to just cut in half what it is, but it gives a very good perspective of what it would look like on an approach, because the front is 40-foot wide, just like ours would be. So I'm not sure if I have been shared or not, or if I have to request that.
You have been.
All right. Okay. I just made a request to share something. I don't know. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Okay. Let me open this. And this has not, obviously they're not 100% done, but they have put it in. One of the key changes that would be a little bit different, sorry, is that the front gable that right now is open and it shows all the kind of posts up there. We would enclose that section up top.
Hey, Vince,
That
I
way-
don't know if it's just,
Yeah.
Vince, I don't know if it's just me. Right now, we're just seeing 5 small images
Yes.
on thumbnails of the image.
So because I only shared the folder and it won't let the. Okay, I have to. Sorry about
So
that.
I think what
Let me
you
see
have
if
to
I
do
can
is open one up and then unshare and then reshare it.
let me try this. Sorry about that. Let's go with that one. Is that better?
There we go. Yeah.
Yep, thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Perfect. Sorry about that. So anyway, this kind of gives you the perspective of what it would look like coming on the island. The only difference is the gable would be closed in on both ends of it, but this is the same width. It's right off of Route 1, actually set back about the exact same distance that we would be set off from the road. So if anybody is actually driving by Route 1 and down near Topsfield anytime, I would recommend you kind of pull over and take a look at it, because it's the same company. This is a metal roof. We're not planning a metal roof. We're going to have a shingled roof similar to all the houses on Plum Island, but it'll at least give you a perspective of size. Now, obviously, this one is double the depth, but at least from the front visual coming onto the island, you'll get a better sense of kind of what it'll look like.
Did you say the gable is going to be closed or open?
It's going to be closed. So behind that initial, that what do you call that?
Truss.
Truss.
So right behind the first truss, it'll kind of, there'll be some shingling or something that gets put down on both ends. It'll still be open underneath it, but that's really just to kind of help with, the big reason for this is the sun that we're putting this up, as well as rain. And when rain's getting pushed and the sun is coming in from that western side, it kind of would defeat the purpose of it if it just kind of blew right in and shone right through the structure. So that will be closed in, and that'll also allow, and when we get talk a little bit about some of the lighting, I imagine you guys will want to talk about, it's all going to be kind of up in there so that it doesn't kind of show outside of the ceiling up in there.
Okay, so as you're coming down Plum Island Boulevard, you're gonna be looking, through the building, but, your eyes will stop at a shingled sheath, about, looks like to the next truss, or, 5 or 10 feet in from the gable end.
I'm not sure. Can you guys see my mouse?
Yeah.
Okay, so pretty much everything in this kind of triangle would be kind of closed in. So you wouldn't be able to see through that, but everything here underneath would be open, and obviously on the sides open as well.
All right, Steve, that's a little different than what you said, right?
Maybe, it said open on all sides.
Okay.
But I thought I had mentioned that
No,
Uh,
no
as
worries.
Yeah, I would, yeah.
Just want to be clear, and I'm sure Vincent has it right.
Peter?
Great. And
Thank you, Phil. Peter, do you have anything else?
All set. Thanks, Woody.
Okay. Larry?
Are you proposing any advertising or signage on the gable ends?
no, there's no change to signing being proposed on site.
Okay. And what's your status with conservation?
Right now with conservation,
ahead.
yes, right now with conservation, we're running through the peer review with Joe, Joe Swarka, and we're waiting on, he had questions regarding the as-built grading and the remedy to that. So I responded with, the plan and updated calculations showing, the, revised impervious areas and how the rain garden satisfies that. So we're waiting back on to hear back on Joe on that.
I'm just looking at his Joe's June 3rd correspondence, which incorporates some of your comments. And it looks like to be discussed with the board was this board is the dumpster location, handicap parking, and site lighting. Is there anything we need to talk about on those?
I think I touched base briefly on the dumpster location, the relocation yeah. So I touched on that. And as far as the site lighting, it was built all cut off down lighting, the existing lighting on site. I'm not sure, I can show the existing locations. They're all small bollard lights for the most part. There is underneath the, up in the seating up near the building, there are strung lights that were all on the original plan. And then around the fence line, there was, as part of the proposed, there's sort of sconce, like these very small sconce downlighting around the perimeter on the fences. So I'm not sure, I guess I'm not sure what specifically he was referring to regarding the lighting and such.
Okay. But that's all existing lighting you're talking about?
Yes, that's all existing. The only proposed lighting with this change, Vince, you can correct me, there's I think sort of small spotlights, there was small spotlights sort of fixed to the framing, tucked up underneath what would be up underneath the two gabled ends that are sheathed down a bit with a shingled sided area. So they'd be tucked up, directing downward into the onto the seating area below.
Correct. Yeah, we're working with the same company that we utilized the last go around to we're really trying to create more of a glow on the site that's more low lights, everything kind of pointed downward. There will be some lights that point upward into the closed gable section, but it's all enclosed, so it's just going to kind of give a warm light in there. I believe there was a diagram. I don't know if that was submitted alongside when we did. I'm not sure if everybody has that or not. If not, I can make sure that gets submitted.
I haven't seen it, so if you could add that
Okay.
in.
I will make sure that gets sent in and that it's kind of a clear picture of exactly what's going to get installed inside of the pavilion.
Yeah, it's actually as part of the submission, there was that diagram was included in there was a 40 by 40, Kingston timber frame. The second to last page, it indicated the locations of the lights and the directions of the lighting. It was included in that. I could share it briefly, or it was included in the original site plan application.
Larry, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, and just one other thing, I'm reading, again, this is item number 5. The board commission may want the engineer to address handicap parking and access from the 2022 letter. And the response, your response, according to this letter, states this will be discussed with the planning board. Is there something we need to talk about handicap park?
I'm not sure. There is handicap parking provided. I'm not sure what he's alluding to there. I can try and dig up the 2022 letter. I'd have to look at that. What we're providing is that.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Steve, I didn't mean to cut you off. This is a June 3rd, 2025 letter, but it's directed to the Concom anyway.
Yeah. So it's allowed, you're a compacted stone dust surface is an allowed ADA. It's a compliant surface. We do trails like that all the time. It's a smooth surface. And we provided the same number of spaces in the as-built condition that was on the proposed condition. So.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you.
Sorry, Woody, just sticking on that question, is there ADA access to the pavilion that will be new?
I think Vince, you may want to cover that. I believe, are we going to be laying down that the ADA sand? I guess it's a rollout sort of a rollout material that is ADA compliant. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, it's an ADA compliant kind of beach matting. You would see it like at the Harvard Way beach access. It exists, and I believe down in Newburyport at some of the entrances to the beach as it gets rolled out, and it's fully ADA compliant, and pretty much from where the existing wood decking ends is where that matting would go down, and it would go through the pavilion. We really didn't want to add any more decking or anything that would people really love to have their feet in the sand, and we kind of wanted to keep it as close to that as possible. So we felt it would kind of help with that kind of beach atmosphere to have something like that on the ground, but that still provided the ability for ADA compliance.
Yeah. That's one thing that is not on the current plan. I can update the plan to show that the route for the ADA from the decking to the pavilion.
Okay, please do.
Great.
Kristen, anything else right now?
No, that would be great. Yeah, I would just the view of Topsfield was really helpful, but I do still want to support Pete's request to see what it will look like exactly on this site.
Yeah, I think I'll talk with Vincent. I think we can create something that would be a very accurate rendering of what it would look like.
Thanks.
Yeah, we had planned to do it. Unfortunately, the company had told me they could do it, and then what we got was just made no sense. So unfortunately, we kind of ran out of time, and Steve has a backup option that we plan on pursuing.
Great, thanks.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Larry, you good?
Yeah, I'm good, Woody. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on. Scott, questions or comments?
Just a question on the dumpsters. Which board? We've got conservation, we've got zoning, we've got planning. Under whose purview is it going to be? Just to review the request to move the dumpsters inboard to the outside perimeter of the site? Is it the planning board?
I believe that's I would understand it's a planning board. That's part of the operation of the site.
And so we're moving the dumpsters inboard from pretty near, Vincent's structure to outboard the outside perimeter of the site to a dwelling that has no relationship to the restaurant site.
Actually, the adjacent house that's on the other side of it is actually on the same property. There was a house that was on site It's technically been condoed off for tax purposes, but it is on the same property. And then on the other side, I guess that would be on the east side. On the north side, it is a different property, same ownership. And obviously that ownership supports it being there. But yes, it is a different property on the north, same property on the east.
Okay. And Steve, I'm curious as to the propane tank. Was there any thought on just going underground with the propane tank?
I'm not, I'd have to defer to Vincent regarding that as part of during the construction.
That would have honestly been our preference, but conservation putting something underground, it was just a no-go. That's why we had to once the fire department said it can't be near the building, and we needed to put it out there, we kind of came up with what would, we didn't want to have to start burying bollards and putting more concrete into the ground. So we thought the most environmentally sensitive thing to do would essentially, it's kind of half of a septic tank that kind of sits as a bathtub that would protect. It would meet the fire code, but it would also not, put more concrete into the ground.
I get it. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for your response. Steve, do you have any questions or comments?
Yes, I do. Couple things. I too share the desire to get a rendition of what the pavilion would look like. I'm thinking particularly as you come over the bridge and, what are those sight lines all about? Perhaps even if you can come up with a rendition that would try and show it at night when it's being lit up, that might be all the more another aspect to consider. I don't know whether we need to talk about at this time how the gable would be filled in. I can imagine, cedar shakes might be more in keeping with the island, just like cedar shakes might be nice for roofing rather than, multicolored asphalt shingles. But that's something I want to defer to the other members of the board who know more about this on the back of their hand than I do. But the, statement that the pavilion's making as you're coming onto the island, I think will be important. And that's why that rendition will be important. Let me circle back also to a little bit about the dumpsters and how they've had to be moved around. I think I recall you saying tonight that in order for the truck to come in, it needed to back in a straightforward way to pick up the dumpsters and move them. And that's one reason you've had to do some changes to the overall site plan. I find myself wondering whether, so too, the merchandise shack, which I think is supposed to have a mobility component to it. That is, you could move it if flooding was a situation that you had to contend with. Where would the pickup commence? And, does it fit with the existing site plan? I mean, I hate to have you have a flood which floods the merchandise shack and have you not able to get the merchandise shack out of the flood zone ahead of the flood. That might also pertain, the same question might also pertain to the storage shed, which I understand is not being built as a permanent structure, but rather one that could be mobile as well. So if you could talk about it now or the next meeting, how these structures can be moved when warranted, and
Sure.
is nothing blocking them.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Vincent.
So as part of the approval process with conservation, as they approved what was already on site, including the merch shack, this did come up, and we agreed to raise the merchandise shack and put it on essentially wood pilings of some sort that raise it up off the ground, and that was done with simply a simple loader that just raised it up. It's a very light container, and that was able, similar to when they approve sheds elsewhere on the island, and they just require those to get raised a little bit. That's kind of what was agreed upon with conservation and what they approved. As far as if it did have to get moved, there is the ability to move it kind of up the hill off-site if needed temporarily on adjacent properties that we own. But you know, none of the storms that have happened in the last 4 years, and there's been some that have brought some flooding onto the main road, onto Plum Island Boulevard. None have come anywhere close to the Merch Shack or any of the other structures on site.
Okay, I'm just having the concern to make sure you'll be able to get whatever it is to pick it up and move it a little bit at
Yep.
least. Thank you.
Anything else, Steve? Good?
I'm good, thank you.
All right. I'd like to just add that, accurate rendition, visual rendition of how this is gonna look, because it is on the gateway to Plum Island, would be great for the board to see and for the public to see. Everything else that I had has been touched on. So that being said, if no other planning board members have any other additional questions, we'll move on to members of the public. Do we have any raised hands at this time, Kristen? Or Peter? Can you see?
I don't see any right now.
Okay, great. Is there, seeing there's no comments from the public, we'll move on. Planning board members, would you be interested in a site walk?
Oh, Woody, I spoke too soon. I'm sorry. We have,
Okay. Yep. Okay. I didn't give him much warning, Chris. So
yeah.
that's good. Here
Yeah,
we go. So the first one we
maybe,
have is
we've
Janice?
got Vince raising his hand, and we also have, Janice Forrest raising her hand.
Okay, Vince, why don't you go first and then we'll get right to Janice. Janice doesn't mind waiting.
Perfect. I guess since we're talking about the, public, I did send, and none of you have probably seen this email yet, but I had a chance to talk to Kristen earlier, and we had kind of done a little petition in support of kind of the changes that we're proposing. And I sent along, we have 558 signatures that we got in support of this project. And so I sent that file over with all those signatures to Kristen, and I imagine she'll share that with you. But I just wanted to kind of let that be known that there is a lot of support for this.
Okay, thank you, Vincent. I did hear of it, but I have not seen it. So thank you, and I'll welcome seeing it in the near future. I see Janice with her hand raised. Is she the first one, Kristen?
Yes.
Go right ahead, Janice. Please say your
Hi,
name and
good
address.
evening. Janice Forrest, this is Old Point Road. My biggest question, I guess, is, are we gonna be dropping sides on this pavilion? Because, one of the trailers was supposed to be mobile and it's now on blocks, and the sight line is bad trying to get out of Old Point Road now with the plantings that are so tall along this side of the boulevard. So if you're gonna stick a pavilion in there now, and then what's to say there's not gonna be sides dropped down it because the weather is bad, and then it's gonna be very difficult to get a sight view without pulling 3/4 of the way onto the boulevard to get out of Old Point Road. That's my question. How do we not make sure that does not happen?
Chairman Knight, would you like me to respond?
Yes, I just,
Okay.
Steve Events, go right ahead. Please respond.
Okay, so one item is unfortunately, the planting is dictated by the site plan and the conservation, so they had required a substantial planting on the site as part of the project. As far as the pavilion will not have sides, as it's not permitted within the Zoning Board of Appeals, so there will be no sides to the pavilion. And additionally, the the posts of the pavilion, I believe, are over 13 feet back from the right-of-way line. And I think slightly more than that from the pavement. So that being offset back 13 feet from the pavement of Plumond Boulevard, it would not impede on your sight distance. The pavilion would be set back from where you'd be looking left for cars coming off the island.
I just wanted to point out that also this, there was a structure that was there on that corner for God knows 70 or so years that was actually closer to the road than what we're proposing. And so, you know, and this is also see-through versus what had been there before. So it should not impede at all on visibility.
Are you speaking of the gas station?
Correct.
That was
Yeah.
it?
So what we're proposing now is further off of the road than where the gas station had been.
Okay. I've been here since, you know, the 50s, so I know what was there and what wasn't there and what's been there and what shouldn't be there and what's gonna be there, whether we like it or not. So it's just a case of it, the plantings are gigantic. They look like it's like Phragmites, which shouldn't even be planted on the island. I could be wrong. And I'm just waiting for the next thing to grow past it's where it's supposed to go. That's my only problem. So
Janice, out of curiosity, are you talking about the plantings that are kind of in that corner, the bushes that are kind of right in that corner surrounded by the timbers?
it's like directly across from the restaurant that's no longer across the street. that corner on the boulevard.
Okay. Right on the
They're
boulevard.
very
Okay,
tall.
I
Yeah.
know exactly where you're talking about. So I mean, one thing we could do for that particular line of sight on that immediate corner, there are bushes there, is that we could, I'm assuming I would have to obviously confirm it with conservation, but we could trim those down and maintain them lower so that they don't continue to grow any higher, and that should alleviate that issue. Now the grasses that are further inside, there's nothing I think we can really do about those, but definitely on that immediate corner where there's some bushes that are growing, we should be able to trim those down to help you with that line of sight.
That'd be good. Thank you.
Okay.
problem.
Thank
I'll
you for
just
your
wait and see what's happening. Thank you, though.
Yeah, thank you for your comments and questions, Janice. And thanks for your participants. Steve, I do see your hand raised now. Go right ahead, sir.
Sure, thank you. One other thing occurred to me while I was listening to the discussion is that, you know, the pavilion isn't going to result in an increase in capacity at the restaurant, as I understand it. That is, whatever you're permitted for is the number. So I would anticipate you'd have some of the tables that are in the other parts of the site brought in underneath the pavilion, so people can sit and enjoy the experience. Certainly where there's a bocce court there right now, people don't dine there per se, but they will be dining underneath the pavilion, rain or shine or sleet or hail or sunshine. But again, just wanted to make sure I understood that the capacity for the restaurant is still the same.
Correct. Yeah, we are not adding any additional seating. The kitchen could not support any additional seating. This is purely, you know, getting the strong high school and college kids that are working there to pick up and move around some picnic tables, depending on, you know, if it's a real hot day or if it's going to rain or whatever might be happening. So that is the plan.
Good, thank you.
All right.
Mhm.
Thank you, Steve, and thanks for your reply. Any other questions, comments, or raised hands? Hearing
I
none?
just
Yeah,
wanna,
go
sorry,
ahead,
Woody.
Go right ahead. Nope. that's
Sorry,
fine.
you're hearing me. I just wanted to mention the signage. The town does have a sign bylaw, which is under the authority of the building inspector, but I know, Steve Urbans, could you just address where you are with review of your signage?
So Peter, the building inspector, reached out, gosh, I want to say a couple weeks ago, and he met myself on site and he just walked the site and took a look at all the signage and lighting. But he did let me know that I guess he is on vacation this week, so he did not think he would be able to get any sort of letter or response to the board, because I guess the board wanted to see that information until probably next week. So I guess that's the last I heard. So if you guys hadn't gotten anything, that I imagine it should be forthcoming next week.
Great. He is on vacation this week, and that's great to confirm that he got out on the property with you, and we'll follow up. Thanks.
Yep. All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns before we talk about potential sidewalk? Hearing none, sidewalk. Is anyone interested in viewing what's on the ground there now and going through a sidewalk there? Do you find it would be helpful? Yes?
Yes.
I think it would, yeah.
Okay. Do we want to talk about scheduling now, or do we want to confirm by email a date, time set to schedule to have a sidewalk at the facility?
Kristen, you have my email.
I didn't hear you, Scott, sorry.
I sent Kristen an email on some dates that I would be available.
Okay. So we have that. So why don't we do via email, Kristen?
Sure,
And,
that's
you
fine.
see, you already have Scott's input, and we can maybe schedule something for a day that works with Scott, and confer with the rest of the board via email. So that sounds good to me. All right, if no one has anything else, I would like to, I would entertain a motion to continue this. I just want to make sure I read it right. I'd entertain a motion to continue the cottages commercial public hearing to July 16th at 7:15 via Zoom. That'll give us plenty of time for a sidewalk. Do I have a
So
motion?
moved.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Steve. Roll call vote. Peter?
Yes, sir.
Larry?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Thank you, Vince. Thank you, Steve Sawyer.
Yep.
And we'll see
Thank
you
you.
on the sidewalk.
Yep,
And we'll
sounds
see you on
good.
the 16th.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night, guys.
Great.
Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
All right, and now back to our agenda. We already got through the liaison and meeting reports. We already got through our meeting minutes. So the only other thing I see here before we adjourn, before I entertain a motion to adjourn, is a plans report. Kristen, you have the floor.
I have a really long planner's report for you all.
All right, I'll buckle my seatbelt.
Yeah. No, I don't. Thank you for, 2 hearings in one night, and everyone on the public who's participated. That's helpful. Let's see. So July 2nd, we'll have the opening public hearing for the subdivision application for 100 High Road, which is a 2-lot subdivision. I also the deadline for that meeting date will be next week, a week from today. So there may be some things that come in, but I anticipate that we will have an informal request for a review of a proposed subdivision at 15 Central Street, which is the property that's been for sale next to the AL Prime gas station here in Byfield. I've been talking with the person who has that property under agreement, and he's suggested and requested an informal conversation to discuss a similar kind of plan as the 100 High Road application, actually.
Kristen,
Yep.
excuse me. Is this the house on the left hand, if you're looking at the gas station, the house to the left, or the
Correct.
property on the right hand? Okay,
Yep.
thank
And it's
Sorry.
just that I'll share more, but that the request there is just to have an additional 1-lot subdivision. But there's not the frontage to do a approval not required subdivision, so it would be coming to the board to demonstrate that using our regulations, they could put a road in and have frontage on a new cul-de-sac for 1 additional house lot. And then probably asking for a waiver to not build that entire road. So that's a preview of that. I also think we are likely to have the approval not required request for 11 and 15. Larry, correct me, is it Sunset Drive, the project that's
Yeah,
been before the ZBA? So that A&R, a draft of that A&R plan has been submitted, and I think will be presented to the board probably for that meeting. In addition, I've been talking, one more project, just to mention 84 Boston Road, K&R Construction. Millennium has submitted an as-built with some additional updates to the as-built plan, and that is something I'm working with them on, and talking with Joe Sirwaka about reviewing the as-built plan. That's also, I think Woody mentioned, is also before the Conservation Commission. So there are a number of questions there. I'm not sure if that will come to the planning board on July 2nd or possibly the next meeting. Keep you posted on that. And we're likely going to want a site visit out there as well on 84 Boston Road. And then I've been meeting with Martha and Town Council to talk about getting ready for the next fiscal year. So Martha has suggested willingness to keep working with the town on the second phase of the recodification. As you remember, we brought a number of zoning amendments to this year's town meeting, but you know, put a number of other proposed zoning amendments into the next fiscal year. So Martha and Lisa Mead and I are meeting probably the last June 30th, I think, to sort of review what's on the list in terms of what's been identified previously and anything at an administrative level that we think might be good to pursue. And after that meeting, I'd love to come back to the planning board and potentially wanted to float the idea of a joint meeting with the zoning board to look at what kinds of changes or zoning amendments we would like to work on collectively for next year's town meeting consideration. So that could be a kind of, you know, I would propose an in-person meeting might be good for that, a kind of a working session with Martha, with town council if she's available, to discuss collectively with the zoning board of appeals members. So I don't know if I'll pause. Does anyone have any thoughts or comments about any of that?
Sounds good.
I'm good. Okay.
Yep. Very good.
Great. And then I also wanted to mention that I hopefully will have good news. There's been an offer made to fill the assistant planner position from an internal applicant. And I'm, you know, we're waiting to confirm things, but I hope before the next meeting, we'll have some good news about getting that position filled. Keep you posted there. And I think that's it for now.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kristen.
Thank you, Woody.
Seeing nothing else on the agenda, I'd entertain, unless someone else has something to say, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
You have it.
Okay. And do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Larry. Roll call vote. Peter, Larry,
Yes,
Scott,
Yeah.
Steve. I say yes as well. Good night, everyone, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Bye.
Good night, Woody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks,
all.
everybody.